Non-binary elephant
podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Non-Binary Elephant podcast. I'm Jamie Ike. Joining me, I've got Gareth as always.
Hello.
So, 5G, something you might have heard of, something you might have not heard of. If you haven't heard of it, then according to our guest today, it's something you should be very much informed on. We're welcoming on weapons expert and expert in 5G and all things like that, Mr. Mark Steele. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, if you could just explain a little bit, I mean, we chatted briefly before, but if you could just explain a little bit about what 5G is in terms of, obviously everyone's heard of 3G, 4G. In a lot of people's minds, 5G is just the next expression, but they're not really sure what that is. So if you could just briefly explain what it is and what the difference is.
Well, what I'll do, I'll start back to front. All right, I'm going to tell you 1G, 2G, 3G and 4G are actually telecommunications. 5G is a weapon. All right, that's the difference between 4G and 5G. Now, a lot of people go, he's crazy. I'm going to explain how. 5G, let me define 5G for you in the first instance, because there's a lot of confusion about that as well. The telecoms companies are rolling out 5 gigahertz. 5 gigahertz is a frequency in a band. So consequently, right, that's a bit misinformation. Obviously, what I'm saying to people who are deceiving and misinforming the public, that's potentially a criminal offence, because what we're absolutely sure about today, 5G is an indictable offence in law. It's a human rights crime against the people. Most certainly is, and I'll explain the reason for that. Let's just define 5G first. 5G means 5G's technical parameters are a number of things. One is densification. Now, the densification part of 5G, it can operate in any frequency, any bandwidth. It can be 2G, 3G, 4G. That can be 5G in relation to densification. Densification means more. All right, so it's just a massive increase in IoT devices. So that's part of the 5G technical parameter. Not all. Now, this is Ofcom's words, not mine, by the way. This is Ofcom in the European Union. The other part of 5G, it's not just all about higher frequency and data packets, all right? It's also about lower frequency, sub-gigahertz. Sub-gigahertz is the long-range radar, and the bit that I got really excited about, or got exercised about, whichever way people like to put it. But I got really interested in the fact that it's sub-gigahertz spectrum antenna. And obviously I didn't expect that, anybody putting up these antennas would want to spy at distance with long-range radar in the urban environment. But unfortunately, that's what they're doing. So that's another part of 5G. The real killer punch on 5G is the antenna design. All right, because of antenna design in 5G, what that allows to do, it allows to scan, it allows to target acquire, and it allows to shoot what's called a maser. Basically a laser, but a microwave radiation signal, so it can shoot out a signal from what's called a dielectric lens. They can be extremely lethal, and that's what 5G is. Now, there's a number of other technical parameters. 5G phased array, that's another part of its operating sort of frequency. I got a lot of noise there in the background. I think somebody's blowing their nose or something like that.
No, we're all good. I don't know what that was.
It might just be MI5 or MI, because MI5 look as if they've dropped the bone. It's up to MI6 to start to warn people about what 5G really is. 5G is also what's called an over-the-horizon weapon system. Now, I know that might sound a little bit bizarre. Well, when people find out what 5G really is, I can tell you now they're going to get pretty pissed off, without a doubt. Because it looks like a government, or some people within government, have allowed a foreign country's weapon system be rolled out on top of you, and it is masquerading in its first instance on telecommunications masts and on the top of streetlights. It's masquerading as a control management system on top of a streetlight, and that's why people, if you live in any area where you've had new LED street lighting, because that's part of the 5G gig as well, anywhere where you've had new LED street light, the control management system where your lights are left on quite a bit, it's because it's not its primary function. That control management system doesn't work for controlling lights. It's for controlling populations. The LED street lights we know are lethal. Now everybody will go, the guy's a complete crackpot. I can't believe a word he's saying. Do your own research. Brunderman Weapons, I'm a weapons expert. I've been in research and development for over 30 odd years, and I have a raft of patents because I'm an inventor and I'm a patent writer, and I've defended a number of my patents in relation to mitigating battlefield interrogation systems. So absolutely, I'm on point with this. I know exactly what it is. And even though people may not believe it, I'm going to explain something so people will believe it and will wake up and will start to act against this crime that's being committed against them. The LED streetlights that are being currently rolled out, just forget it, put Park 5G off to one side, right? The weapon system. Let's just talk about the LED streetlights. The LED streetlights that your councils are rushing out as quickly as possible under some, funded deal either from central government or somewhere else, where they're rushing out this LED. Those LED streetlights have only been in Barcelona for 3 years, and they've already doubled the breast and the prostate cancer. It's a 450 nanometers, 460 pulse modulated blue phosphor coated LED. It is lethal to life. Fact. All right. Science says it is. I say it is. I'm an expert in this particular field because obviously weapon sight systems, that's really my sphere of, let's say, focused expertise. I've got expertise in a lot of other types of weapon systems, but mainly it's because obviously I've got to be able to mitigate them with my battlefield head-up display systems equipment. So, your LED streetlights. Now ask yourself the question. Public Health England have already deemed LEDs, pulse modulated blue phosphor coated LEDs, as hazardous to children and older people. You've got ANSIs, you've got AMA, you've got a number of regulatory bodies around the world that have said that they are not safe. You've got local authorities still rolling them out. They have a duty of care. The law in relation to this type of technology has been breached. This is absolutely an indictable offence. So any councillor, any councils, any MPs who are supporting the rollout of LED streetlights, put them on notice. Either cease and desist. If they don't cease and desist, it will show the intent of the crime that they are committing against this country and its countrymen, women and children. Children in particular. Absolutely children in particular. Their eyes are a lot more sensitive to this type of light. These LED streetlights have actually been built where there's no cover, there's no what's called a diffuser. If those diffusers had been fitted, it would reduce the optical radiation hazard. Optical radiation is a class 1 cancer causing radiation. It is a known hazard and has to be fully risk assessed. There has been no risk assessed any of the rollout of the LED streetlights. So if you think I'm mad about talking about 5G and the fact that it's a weapon system, well, the LED streetlights are part of a program called soft kill. All right? Called soft kill that can cause neurological disorders, they can cause severe damage to eyesight, and they can most certainly cause cancer. We'll have all the science that supports that now.
If these are being rolled out on streetlights as they are, I mean, I just think about where I live, my street. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of them just all over the place, thousands, and you just think that they're outside people's houses,
outside kids' bedrooms.
Outside kids' bedrooms, yeah. Did
anybody tell you need to wear protective eyewear and around those LED streetlights?
No, I've never been told that. We've not got them where I live in the little village I live in, but it's a matter of time, I'm sure.
Well, the people who work on them have been told. The people that work on those LED streetlights have been told they've got to wear protective eyewear. Why haven't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like when you see the images of people spraying GMOs all over crops in America, covered in big protective suits, and then people eat them.
Yeah.
It's the same principle, isn't it?
But you've tried really hard to expose this, obviously, and warn people, and they've tried to shut you up. And you were taken to court and a judge actually ruled on your side. Could you tell us a little bit about what happened with that?
Well, they're trying to take us back to court now. They've demanded to get another judge, and they're having another run at me. And they're trying to commit me to prison. They're not happy with, they've actually and basically ran a total campaign where they've had a number of their officers come to my home, police officers as well. Fortunately, as it happens, one honest police officer, he saved my bacon. He actually told the truth. The council officer lied. He lied under oath. He lied in front of a judge. The judge actually had the police officer in the court, and I believe he actually made him stay in the court so he could hear the fabricated evidence coming from the council officer. So I had the chief executive lie about me. I had the mayor lie about me. I had a number of other council officers all lie, all fabricate and exaggerate evidence to try and get me sent to prison. So that's where we're at. So I had a criminal case against me, which I lost. This was where two councillors came to my home to fabricate evidence against me, and I've got an appeal on the 28th of March to that particular offence where I was found guilty of a public order. Obviously, they wanted to try and get a bit more serious offence because they want to get us sent to prison. They're trying everything they can to gag me because obviously I'm telling people, unfortunately for them, that the technology that they've rolled out is in breach of their duty of care, and they are absolutely in serious trouble. I told the chief executive at a public meeting that she was going to prison, and make no mistake about it, when this story comes out, well, prison, they'll be lucky to get away with just going to prison. Let's put it like that, because we've seen a significant number of young babies dying in the womb. We've seen people bleeding from the nose in the area. So nosebleeds, neurological disorders, cancers. One chap that was in my civil case, a guy called David Smails, David's wife unfortunately developed a brain cancer, died very, very quickly in very, very strange circumstances. There was a bit of a cloud over it, and I told people in the locality, if they develop brain cancers, certain types of brain cancers, we could possibly tie it in with the microwave radiation emission from this experimental, illegal 5G technology.
Yeah, this was in Gateshead, wasn't it?
This is in Gateshead,
right.
Yes. Well, and David was in the civil case, and obviously he made a victim statement. I was allowed to put a few victim statements into the court, and David died 2 days before from having his heart smashed to bits from the same microwave radiation. I measured it in his bedroom at, it was about 1300 millivolts, and the maximum I can expose you to is the Council of Europe 1815 resolution is 200. 600 for a very short period and 200 for a long period. Now the bioinitiative report says 30. It should really be 0, but 30, the bioinitiative's report have said that may be safe. Not really, they like to be a bit lower. The courts have taken a more pragmatic view and said 200. He had 1300 in his, and I've measured up to 4,000. The building codes, so building regulation codes, are in breach. If I built a home with that type of radiation inside it, you wouldn't be able to get a building code signed off on that. You couldn't actually live in a home under overhead power cables with that type of radiation in it. Would you buy a home underneath overhead power cables?
No, absolutely not. No, I always look at that. When I've rented houses over the years, if it's near a substation or something, I'm not interested.
That,
No. So I mean, obviously, it's all over at the moment with obviously chopping all the trees down. We've spoke about this before in Sheffield, massively, like tens and tens of thousands of urban trees, which is obviously a lot to do with this 5G. So the fact they're chopping down all these trees, they want it everywhere, don't they? And if this is happening in Gateshead in a small area, once this is everywhere, people are going to be dropping like flies.
Well, people are dropping like flies already, and not only that, I mean, we're starting to hear very, very young people just dropping down dead in the street. There was 4 in a little village not far from me, Wickham. I think about a fortnight ago, we heard of 4 very suspicious deaths, all under 50-year-olds, people just dropping like flies. So they're already dropping like flies. and this thing's not even turned up yet. So it's, like I said, it's a weapon system. It's got absolutely nothing to do with telecommunications to your mobile phone. This is for spying on you. This is for interrogating your home. This is for target acquiring a person and shooting them, or shooting a target. That's what this technology is capable of. I'm not making this stuff up. People need to wake up and realise these criminals are out of control, and how they've actually achieved that. They've got some very stupid people in these positions of power. So they've actually paid people lots of money. Those people know that they are very, very dim-witted, and consequently they'll say anything as long as they get their paycheck at the end of every month. I mean, there was one incident where the police arrived. I was having words with one of the lighting guys. The lighting guy even admits to the police officer that there's something in what I'm saying about the baby deaths. And then I get this police officer saying to me, you can't go around telling these off. It's got nothing to do with them. Two wrongs don't make a right. I said, he's just that's repairing and fitting a weapon system all the way from China on top of an LED streetlight. He said, I don't believe you. I says, I'm not bothered what you believe. You wouldn't know. You're just a police constable. I said, why do you know? I said, I am an expert in this field.
It's whenever you see lots of people working together from lots of different areas, councils, private corporations, the police, to silence or shut down a debate, as they really have done with this. They just don't want to go there with the debate on this, and they don't want to test it publicly because, as you've pointed out, that will just show the danger of it. It does make you think there's something very sinister going on, really sinister going on.
Well, I mean, the LED streetlights are an example of exactly that. I mean, these local authorities, local governments, they actually have these acts of parliament. The project rolled out in Gateshead, a multi-million pound, I mean, probably one of the biggest capital investment projects Gateshead Council have ever carried out. We didn't know anything about it. It was done in secret.
Yeah, and still, I mean, talk to us a little bit about what the kind of consequences of that being up there were. I mean, I read a few stories about it to do with it being called a humanitarian disaster.
It's absolutely it's a humanitarian crime. We now know this is an indictable offence. Senator Blumenthal, obviously a lot of people in the US have been following some of my videos until Google took them down, by the way.
Well, surprised.
Now, this is a channel, this is the Save Us Now political party, this is a political movement, and it's the political party's YouTube channel. All that's on that channel is talk about technology, about technological dangers, what I call killer technology, electric cars, very dangerous. Electric car, I mean, who would, like I said before, would you live under a set of high-powered, electric transmission lines? No, you wouldn't. So why would anybody be stupid enough to buy an electric car? I mean, it's absolutely crazy. And shows the power of the media and how the media have been co-opted into this fabrication and lie. Any tests that have been done in electric cars are only up to 30 minutes. What about these poor taxi drivers around the country who are they're being forced into electric cars where they'll die?
Yeah, for 8 hours a day. Yeah,
8 hours a day. It's unbelievable. So we've got this outrageous attack on taxi drivers, black cab drivers. We've got an outrageous attack on the country through this untested, unregulated technology, and they know. I know. They know. They have been warned. The government agencies themselves are warning them, and they're still not taking any notice. So who's involved in these councils? Who's actually got involved in these local councils? Because they're our local elected officials. Who in the local Labour parties in these councils? Who in the local Conservatives? Because I mean, I've got a cross-party attack here. I mean, there's none of these councillors on my side. They're all against me.
No, that's what you normally see when it's something on their agenda. Is they all seem to come together.
And it also doesn't add up. Like you're pushing electric cars based on the fact that you're trying to save the environment, and then using the same technology on lampposts so you can chop down tens of thousands of trees
and increase the radiation
into the environment. It's insane.
Chopping trees down in cityscapes is actually humanitarian crime. Fact. Those trees were put there by the Victorians to reduce the toxicity level in cities. And the reason why they didn't do it because they loved people. They did it because they didn't want you to be sick. They wanted things in the community, right, parks and stuff like that, because they knew if they filtered the air through the trees taking a lot of toxic materials that don't just take carbon dioxide in and put out oxygen, which obviously we need to breathe, by the way, otherwise we'll die. So not only are they attacking the environment, this is an attack on the environment, it's a humanitarian crime. Any police officer standing on guard and stopping these trees from being chopped down, that's a crime. That's an actual crime. They cannot allow this to happen. Obviously they've called a moratorium in Sheffield. However, the company that were behind it, Amy, they're in very serious financial straits. And not only that, the contract that was between Sheffield City Council is confidential. It's a secret. So we've got secret council deals with these technology companies. Amy's part of the autonomous vehicle rollout, by the way. So you've got secret contracts with companies that are obviously organised or funded by China or whoever. I mean, come on, what's going on? Today, I've just put up on my Facebook page, anybody can go and have a look at it, Mark Steele, but also in the Save Us Now party, I'm saying to everybody, get involved, be part of the resistance. No good being on the keyboard, otherwise it can shut you down. Right? That's a controlled mechanism. The social media output, it's good for getting things out, yes, but do not rely on it. We have to come together here under a banner. The Save Us Now party, what we actually set up, and I'm the technical advisor for that. It's so that people can get together, we can fund the legal fight, so we can take these criminals that haven't pulled down the legal system yet. We need to get them back into court. We need to get these criminals back into court. And not only that, we actually have just put up there a letter that needs to be sent to any organisation, any company, any employee at any company who've got anything to do with 5G. 5G we now know is an indictable offence. And that's since the Congress, Senator Blumenthal, who asked in December last year all of the industry to come back and tell him, the FCC, the FDA, and all of the industry to give them all the safety data on 5G. Well, Blumenthal knew there wouldn't be any, because I've already told him there isn't any, because it's a weapon system off the battlefield. I mean, it's like trying to say there's a safety standards on 3.62 round ammunition. I mean, absolutely mental. So he knew that. He's asked them the question. They came back on the 7th of February and have now admitted there isn't any. There isn't any on the LED street lights. They'll say it's BSI approved. It's not. There's been no risk assessment of the light radiation. It's lethal to wildlife. It is illegal and unlawful, and so is the 5G. So you've just had technology rolled out on motorways. Has anybody warned wagon drivers on motorways to wear protective eyewear? Nobody's warned you guys. I knew to wear protective eyewear. I do wear protective eyewear. In fact, I think people get a bit upset because they never see me eyes. Well, the reason why you can't see me eyes and protect myself from microwave radiation, it causes central nervous system cancer, and obviously that's not a very nice way to die.
No. Well, I was going to ask, so obviously what went on in Gateshead, they basically didn't tell anyone. They had a bunch of guinea pigs that they didn't ask for permission from, which would suggest to me anyway that there's probably more of them as well. What would people look out for? So say for me in my village, if I wanted to know what to look out for, what are the things that I go, hang on, they're bringing that here?
The first thing to look out for is LED streetlight infrastructure. That's part of 5G. So they put the LED streetlights. They did it in a village not far from me. We made representations to a local council that put the LED streetlights. They promised that was it. We'll go back 12 months. This was 12 months ago. 12 months forward, we've been back to that village, and what they did, they came in the middle of the night and replaced the light sensors with the 5G equipment.
It's so James Bond villain, sinister, isn't it?
It is very sinister, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's I'm nearly 60-year-old, and obviously I've had quite an interesting and varied life. You know, it's you young guys, they're going to take your life from you. This will kill you. The younger the people, what I can't understand, a lot of the people who are getting involved and getting very exercised about this are of around about my age and a little bit younger. But it's the younger people I'm concerned about. I mean, I've got grandchildren. They will be, if we don't get this stopped, they'll die.
I think the problem with the younger generation is technology is something they've grown up with. I mean, I'm 26, and I remember mobile phones have been around since I was probably 10. And, you know, it's very common for, 10-year-old girls to have iPhones these days, and technology is very much part of their upbringing. So therefore, they probably don't view this as anything sinister, whereas somebody older with the view of experience, who's seen where technology was in the 70s to where it is now, they're seeing all the red flags.
Well, the 1G, if anybody looks at the epidemiological data, what I mean by that is the scientific data on the ground. We've seen a massive increase in mental health issues since the 80s from the rollout of 1G. So you had 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G. I'll define some of them. They're just basically more compressed, more technically capable signal systems for telecoms, by the way. So at least they're not as sinister. Some of the pulse modulation on the screens is sinister because that's pretty addictive, and it's been written in to be addictive because, like I said before, terahertz range light, I'm very, very au fait with that. So I know how you can actually condition people by basically hypnotize them with some of the screen imagery. Yeah. And I see that quite a bit in some of the architecture and some of the social media, some of the equipment you can pulse modulate and make people pretty addicted to it.
And it's working because people are massively addictive, aren't they?
Well, the 70,000 children are self-harming in schools. Believe us, when I was at school, nobody was self-harming. So you've got 70,000 children a year self-harming. You've got stratospheric numbers of young people committing suicide. It's all interconnected with microwave radiation. Forget about somebody bullying somebody on Facebook. Human beings are pretty robust, but I can tell you now, if somebody starts bullying and you've already got a neurological disorder from the microwave radiation from the transmitter, that's going to really play on your mind. And obviously, Bristol University, they rolled out 5G in 2016. They got £16 million. I wrote to Bristol University's ethics department. I implored them not to use this experimental test technology on the students at Bristol. They just totally ignored my protest to them. And obviously, they've had, I believe the number's about 40 or 50 children have committed suicide.
Jesus.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I know that their numbers are a lot less than that, but it was recently reported that one of the sort of outreach health workers that works there is basically being sacked because he said the numbers are stratospherically larger than what they've been reported in the mainstream media. So we've got children going to university who are at risk because these characters just can't help themselves but take the money. They're being offered vast amounts of money. I'll give you an example. I did a lot of research in the locality of Gateshead and measured radiation, but obviously my evidence is tainted because of who I am, and I've got a vested interest. I'm an EMF sufferer, so I've got a vested interest in those numbers being a lot higher. All right, and not as independent. So they're not as independent. I wouldn't do that anyway, but whatever evidence I put out there is going to be tainted. I spoke to an outreach officer because I know a lot of people in the scientific community around here. I spoke to an outreach officer at Teesside University, does Teesside, Durham and Newcastle. And I asked him, I said, I need to have some background research done. We've got to be able to get some research scientists to do some research in the gated area, in bedrooms, to show the stratospheric levels and basically substantiate some of the data, or not to substantiate some of the data that I'd actually already gathered, because mine isn't independent. I know how that means a great deal in scientific documentary evidence. So anyway, the guy thought that's a great idea. He went off, spoke to a few people in the different universities, and he came back and he said to me, I've been told if I carry on talking to you, I'm going to be sacked.
Jesus wept.
I said,
I sound surprised, but I'm not surprised at all.
we're going to get sacked. There's been offered £124 million from central government, right, to roll out 5G. That's the universities. Well, here you go. I was actually invited to speak at Northumbria University at a lecture, Chatham House rules. So anyway, when I gets there, a guy who set it up, I'll not give his name, he sets it up, and when I gets there, this chap comes across and he says, Mark, have you said anything to central government about 5G? And I said, well, yes, of course I have. He said, well, what have you said? I says, well, I've told them it's a weapon system. That's all it is. I said, it's nothing more. I know by the antenna designs. It's off the battlefield. It's battlefield interrogation equipment. It's phased array radar. It's long range radar. That's what it is. And it's lethal. And it'll kill you. And that's why all the troops coming back from these battle space and killing themselves, they've basically got brain injuries. And the neurological disorders all fits. It all fits with the phased array radar. And obviously we've got the science that also substantiates this, not just the anecdotal or the epidemiological data on the amount of troops killing themselves. So I went to the event and he said, well, that must explain it. And I says, explain what? He said, well, I've had Xavier. This is the chap who works for the government, who's a 5G guru, had been told by central government not to attend the event and be at that lecture because I would be there. So he was actually told not to attend because they didn't want me to stand in a lecture and lecture to these scientists. Anyway, I did my lecture. There's a couple of technologists there talking about encryption and hardware, and then I got up and talked about the existential threat of 5G. And couple of scientists there, there was a couple of crying, there was a bit of tears with a few who obviously got it. And one idiot said to me, because I can be pretty brutal with, especially with academics when they're thick, you know, some idiot fools, I cannot stand them. So anyway, this idiot said to me, she went, I just can't accept that. And I said, well, what is the bit you can't accept? If you want us to explain it in layman's terms, but I thought we're all scientists here. I said, I'll explain it in a little bit simpler form. She said, no, I just cannot accept what you're saying. I said, but you know, I mean, what chance you got? And I had exactly the same conversation at Science City last week with a clown. This one was a male one, so I'll call him a clown. Another scientist, right? And I was telling him, because I've set up this, you know, this virtual reality Hope 5G Hope thing.
Yeah.
Well, virtual reality headsets, obviously, it's basically a screen, pulse modulated, full spectrum screen, and you are focusing that optical radiation, a class 1 cancer causing radiation, onto the retina. The retinal displays using a magnifying glass. Well, that's pretty lethal. If you want to die, just use gaming headsets. Great, and that'll kill you. You won't get very far. So anyway, this character, he goes, I can't accept that. I said, what is it you can't accept? Is it you having difficulty with the science? No, he said, I just can't accept it. I said, I says, what's wrong with you? I said, has somebody been giving you drugs or something? I said, I mean, how can you not understand? Optical radiation is a known hazard. It's a classified carcinogen. That's how you get skin cancer, by the way. It's a classified carcinogen. If I use a pulse modulated full spectrum frequency from a screen, I mean, you know your mobile phone screen.
Yeah.
Well, it's not safe closer than 200 millimeters. And that's one of the reasons why Samsung have actually got an app on there. So as you get too close, it switches off. In fact, all mobile phones, all smartphones, do you know as you put them up to your head, you'll see the screen go blank.
Yeah.
Reason. It's to stop the radiation, the optical radiation, giving you cancer on the side of your head. Now, it won't travel through dense bone, all right? But it's pretty dangerous to your skin. So that's why they go off. Now, I said to this chap, optical radiation is a known hazard. Now, who would then get one of those screens, put it into a cardboard box with 2 magnifying glasses, right, and focus that radiation directly onto your retina?
Only a psychopath would do that.
Yeah.
You've got companies sending cardboard boxes out with magnifying glasses. I think the last 5 million. In fact, I spoke to Asda. I went into Asda once. You know this idiot Pudsey Bear thing, the BBC.
Oh yeah. Children need, yeah.
Well, what actually happened with them lot? I went into Asda and I saw this cardboard box with Pudsey Bear on. So when I rang Asda straight away, I said, you need to get them out. I said, those cardboard, they're selling them for £1. I said, do you know how dangerous it is to actually focus an optical radiation emission using a magnifying glass onto a child's eye on a retina? People just don't get it. This thing, they call these killer tech because they're killer tech for a reason. They're here to kill.
See, part of it, I think, is people, for one, they don't do any research. So you're well experienced and well versed in it, and so you're presenting your findings, which are based on knowledge.
People shouldn't have to, yeah, but people shouldn't have to. We have regulatory bodies, PHE and others, and government agencies who we pay an absolute fortune to, who sit in ivory towers, taking large salaries, right, so that this doesn't happen. What's happened, they're asleep at the wheel, and how they're asleep at the wheel is these people who are given those jobs, they really should be, it would denigrate a caretaker or a cleaner to think that these people should be in those positions, right? Never mind these positions of power where they are wielding large budgets, and it's also one of the reasons why these businesses and organisations are near bankruptcy and it's like they couldn't run the railways. It's got nothing wrong with the railways. It's the type of people that end up in these positions of power. I mean, they're just basically clowns. You know, what they should do is they should wear sort of face paint, and basically we should be able to tag them and make them wear face paint. I mean, it's like some of these politicians, they're a total and absolute joke.
Yeah, but that's why they're there, though, isn't it?
They're easy to manipulate.
They're easy to manipulate, and because they are ignorant and stupid, you know, it's easy to roll out 5G and these weapon systems because they're not going to stand in the way of it because they don't get it.
They don't get it. Well, what they'll get is, right, 5G is an indictable offence. I'll tell everybody, get on the Save Us Now party. There's a note there. Download it. There's a newsletter we'll be sending out. Anybody part of Save Us Now will get one from us. Anybody that wants to sign up for the newsletter, get signed up for them. We'll be sending those newsletters out. Contact anybody who's any organisation, any university, any professor, and tell them 5G is an indictable offence. Anybody that's put their name to it have to cease and desist, and if they don't, then we know the intent they have to harm mankind. All right?
It's saveusnow.org, isn't it, for anyone listening at home?
Yes, saveusnow.org.uk.
Right.
All right. That notice should be up tonight sometime. I'm telling everybody, if you want to stay alive, if you want to stop this crime against you, get involved. Let's grow this political movement, this movement of resistance to these criminals, because the only way this happened, it's happened over the last 20 or 30 years where we've ended up with very, very dishonest, disagreeable, deceptive manipulators of the truth. Now that goes for the media. We saw an attack on the media in the 80s. You know, obviously the buying up of the media, where reporters had no independence. We also saw in the 80s where university became very, very reliant on central government funds, so there's no independence there. We lost a lot of the good thinkers, the great thinkers who worked in universities, probably a pain in the arse for the establishment. You know, we had some professor came out and said, oh, hang on a minute, you can't do that, that's not a very good idea. They got rid of all of those guys pretty quickly. This is an attack on democracy. This is an attack on freedom of speech. This is an attack on the country. My freedom of speech, the local council tried to take my freedom of speech away in a court case using taxpayers' money to fully gag me, you know, with a full gagging order, so I couldn't post anything on social media because I was warning people. Do you know what they said? They said he's terrifying people because he's telling them that this technology is dangerous and we've got vulnerable people in the community. Now what they really meant was they had people sitting in the council going, shit, if this gets out, we're going to prison.
And it's about time it did come out. If we can, as you pointed out, more and more people come together, make the case as big as possible, as high profile as possible, the mainstream media, put them in a position where they can't ignore it anymore.
That's exactly, well, what we do, we just cause such a stir where the police, I mean, I was actually talking to some police officers. We had a guy on a march, Yellow Vest March, over 5G, by the way. That was what it was. It wasn't about Brexit, it was about 5G. And he was falsely arrested. We were in the court. Now, obviously, there was quite a few people there. They expected maybe a little bit of trouble, so there was some police officers there. I spoke to those police officers, some were ex-military, and I was explaining to them the technology, and at first they were very, very off-handed. As about 15 to 20 minutes got through, they realised what I was actually saying was in fact correct. There was a completely change in their demeanour towards me. And then what happened, I then started to explain to these guys that this chap who was actually being brought before the courts wouldn't be in the court at all. The police had done their job and arrested the criminals behind this rollout, this illegal, unlawful rollout of 5G, which we now know, absolute matter of fact, it is an indictable offence under humanitarian law. It is an offence. This is genocide, and I'm going to tell everybody that listens to this, podcast, or however you guys put this media out, get active. Do not sit back. Do not go on social media. Get involved. Be on social media, but get involved. Personally get involved. This will kill you. I'm not pulling any punches, and you can see why Gated Council want to try and get me gagged.
Absolutely. The more and more people that know about this, the better. And we'll put all the links in the description when we put this out on Sunday, and try and get this as far and wide as we can for you.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming on, Mark. We've taken up sort of 45 minutes of your time, but it's been frightening but really interesting. We're gonna, like my brother said, just push it everywhere we can and get people to saveusnow.org.uk and
get involved yourselves. Get involved.
Absolutely.
Locally. Set up your own groups. You are under attack. What happened? Nobody's told you. This is a secret war, a secret weapon that's being operated by a foreign power. All right, we have to fight back with everything we have. Believe us, that's what I'm doing, and I've thrown all caution to the wind. I've had threats to kill. I've had windows knocked out of vehicles where I live. I've had all sorts of trouble. I mean, I've been gang stalked. I've had 6 police officers at my door, not threatening, but looking as if it looks very threatening to some people. I mean, I don't care. I'm not going to be frightened or chased out of my home by criminals. It's not happening.
No.
I don't care what sort of badge or what uniform they've got on. Doesn't affect me.
No, good man. And we'd urge everyone else to do the same. Let's just stand up.
When you stand up for what's right, who gives a shit about the consequences?
Absolutely. We really appreciate this, Mark. Thanks again, and hopefully we'll be able to speak to you again further down the line with more developments and stuff.
Last thing I want to say to everybody, the law is on our side. Section 3 of the criminal justice system. Not only is the law on our side, it is your legal duty to act. It's your legal duty. That's what I'm doing. I've got a moral and legal obligation to act.
Well said.
That's a good place to leave it. Thanks, Mark. We'll speak to you again soon.
Cheers, Mark. Yeah. Thanks again, mate. That was interesting. How you feeling? You look perplexed, Jay.
I am. My head's battered. That was very intense, and I say that should scare a lot of people. It should and it shouldn't. It should in the sense of, if you didn't need any convincing that your governments, your councils, your media, your regulatory bodies, etc., haven't got your interests at heart, then that's it.
Yeah, but instead of being frightened, it should inspire, I think. Because I think Mark's got that attitude of, he's like, fuck this. And
absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's good.
Yeah, you need to have that attitude. I think a lot of people have got a limit, though. They'll have a fuck you attitude up to a point, and then when they see it's going to affect them, they might, I'll bail out here. But the difference with this is, whether you bail out or stay in, it affects you. There's probably going to be an LED street light in your street at some point. There'll be a 5G transmitter outside your kid's bedroom at some point. So this isn't something we can just turn around and go, I'm just going to go out tonight, sod it, can't be dealing with the hassle.
Yeah, you can't run away from it, absolutely.
Which is horrible, but in a sense of, hopefully it's a positive in the sense of it will bring people together and they'll stop arguing among themselves and realise that this affects every single person in this country.
Yes.
Doesn't now, but it will do.
Well, yeah, it is, because it's rolling it out left, right and centre, mate. So it's like I said, it's going to be outside your baby's room in no time, mate. It's
it's frightening, but
anyway, go to saveusnow.org.uk and sign up to that and have a look. Also, Mark Steele, obviously his name's in the description, but his Facebook page is worth going and clicking add on and having a read. He posts on a daily basis lots of information. So it's
while he's still there,
while he's still on Facebook, yeah.
Cool.
So next week
we have Sherry Tenpenny, who is one of the top vaccine activists in the world. She's going to be joining us from Cabo, Mexico, which is somewhere a bit hotter than it is here now, isn't it?
Yeah, which isn't hard, it's freezing.
Yeah, no, it's pretty grim today.
But yeah, so we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.